Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to drain your energy while others light up your entire world? What if I told you that Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, discovered something that explains the hidden battle happening in your psyche right now? A battle between forces that could either destroy your mental health or transform you into the most powerful version of yourself. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn will change how you see every relationship in your life. Picture this. You're in a room with someone who constantly talks about themselves, dismisses your feelings, and somehow makes every conversation about their achievements. Your chest feels tight, your energy plummets, and you leave feeling completely drained. Now imagine another scenario. You're with someone who truly listens, validates your emotions, and makes you feel seen and understood. You walk away feeling energized and valued. Jung would tell you that you've just experienced the fundamental difference between encountering a narcissistic personality and an empathic one. But here's where it gets fascinating. Jung didn't just categorize people into neat little boxes. He discovered that within every human psyche lies what he called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide, reject, or refuse to acknowledge. And this shadow is where the real battle between narcissistic and empathic tendencies plays out. You see, we all have both capacities within us. The question isn't whether you're a narcissist or an empath. The question is, which aspects of your personality have you integrated, and which have you banished to your unconscious shadow? Let me share something that might shock you. Jung observed that people who identify strongly as empaths often carry a hidden narcissistic shadow, while those who display obvious narcissistic traits frequently harbor a wounded, hypersensitive inner child desperate for genuine connection. This isn't about pointing fingers or making judgments. This is about understanding the complex psychological dynamics that drive human behavior and relationships. Think about the last time someone really triggered you. I mean, really got under your skin. Jung would argue that this person activated something in your shadow, a part of yourself you don't want to see or acknowledge. If someone's selfishness infuriates you, perhaps it's because you've pushed your own self-serving impulses so far into your unconscious that you can't tolerate seeing them in others. If someone's emotional sensitivity annoys you, maybe it's because you've armored yourself against your own vulnerability. This is what Jung called projection. We see in others what we refuse to see in ourselves. And nowhere is this more evident than in the complex dance between narcissistic and empathic personalities. The empath who constantly gives to others might be unconsciously seeking the admiration and validation that feeds their hidden narcissistic needs. The narcissist who demands constant attention might be desperately trying to fill the empathic void created by early emotional wounds. But here's where Jung's work gets truly revolutionary. He didn't see these psychological patterns as fixed personality disorders. He saw them as developmental stages, parts of what he called the individuation process. Individuation is Jung's term for becoming whole, for integrating all aspects of your personality, including the ones you'd rather pretend don't exist. Let's dive deeper into what this means for your daily life. Have you ever noticed how certain people seem to push all your buttons effortlessly? Jung would say these individuals are serving as mirrors, reflecting back the unconscious aspects of your own psyche. The narcissist in your life isn't just someone who's difficult to deal with. They're showing you the parts of yourself that need attention, love, and integration. Consider Sarah, a self-described empath who works as a nurse. She prides herself on her sensitivity and caring nature, often staying late to comfort patients and going above and beyond for everyone around her. But Sarah has a secret that she barely admits to herself. She's addicted to being needed. When patients don't appreciate her extra efforts, she feels devastated. When colleagues don't recognize her sacrifices, she becomes resentful. Sarah's empathic identity masks a deep narcissistic wound, the need to be seen as special, valuable, and indispensable. On the flip side, consider Marcus, a successful entrepreneur who displays many narcissistic traits. He talks constantly about his achievements, struggles to empathize with others' problems, and seems primarily concerned with his own success. But dig deeper, and you'll find a hypersensitive child who learned early that his worth depended on his accomplishments. Marcus's narcissistic armor protects an incredibly empathic core that was wounded so severely in childhood that he had to bury it to survive. Jung would argue that both Sarah and Marcus are stuck in one-sided psychological development. Sarah has over-identified with her empathic qualities while rejecting her narcissistic needs. Marcus has embraced his narcissistic traits while banishing his empathic sensitivity. Neither is whole. Neither is individuated. The path forward isn't about eliminating narcissistic or empathic tendencies. It's about conscious integration. This means acknowledging and accepting all aspects of your personality, even the ones that make you uncomfortable. For Sarah, individuation might involve owning her need for recognition and finding healthy ways to meet it. For Marcus, it might mean gradually allowing his buried sensitivity to resurface in safe relationships. But here's what makes this process so challenging. We live in a culture that demonizes narcissism and idealizes empathy. We've created a false binary where you're either a good person or a bad person, either selfless or selfish, either sensitive or callous. Jung understood that this black and white thinking keeps us trapped in psychological immaturity. True psychological health requires what Jung called the transcendent function, the ability to hold opposing forces in creative tension. This means acknowledging your empathic sensitivity, while also honoring your legitimate needs for recognition and self-care. It means owning your desire for success and admiration while also cultivating genuine compassion for others. Let me tell you about a concept that Jung called the wounded healer. He observed that those who become healers, therapists, counselors, spiritual teachers, often do so because they carry deep wounds themselves. The healer who has never been wounded cannot truly understand suffering. But the wounded person who has done their inner work can transform their pain into wisdom and compassion. This applies directly to the narcissist-empath dynamic. The person who has integrated their narcissistic shadow doesn't lose their empathy. They gain healthy boundaries. They can care for others without losing themselves. They can give from overflow rather than from depletion. Similarly, the person who has integrated their empathic shadow doesn't become cruel or callous. They develop authentic confidence. They can pursue their goals and celebrate their achievements without needing to diminish others. Jung believed that our greatest wounds often become our greatest gifts, but only after we've done the difficult work of integration. The narcissist who learns to feel genuine empathy becomes an incredibly powerful force for healing because they understand both sides of the human experience. The empath who learns to honor their own needs becomes a truly effective helper because they're no longer driven by unconscious motives. So how do you begin this integration process? First, you must become curious about your triggers rather than judgmental. When someone activates strong emotions in you, ask yourself, what aspect of myself am I seeing reflected here? What am I rejecting in myself that I can't tolerate in others? Second, you need to examine your motivations honestly. If you identify as an empath, explore whether your helping behaviors are truly selfless or if they serve unconscious narcissistic needs for validation, control, or specialness. If you recognize narcissistic tendencies in yourself, investigate the wounded empathic child beneath the armor. Third, practice what Jung called active imagination, dialoguing with the rejected aspects of your personality. If you've banished your narcissistic impulses, try having an internal conversation with that part of yourself. What does it need? What is it trying to protect? How might you honor its wisdom while expressing it in healthier ways? The goal isn't to become perfectly balanced overnight. It's to develop what Jung called psychological flexibility. the ability to access different aspects of your personality as situations require. Sometimes you need to be empathic and giving. Sometimes you need to be assertive and self-focused. Psychological health means having access to the full spectrum of human responses. Jung also emphasized the importance of relationships in this integration process. We often need others to mirror back our blind spots and unconscious patterns. This is why difficult relationships, while painful, can be profound teachers. The narcissist in your life isn't just someone to avoid. They might be showing you aspects of yourself that need development. The empath who triggers your cynicism might be reflecting your own buried sensitivity. But here's a crucial point that Jung made clear. Integration doesn't mean accepting toxic behavior or staying in harmful relationships. It means understanding the psychological dynamics at play so you can respond consciously rather than reactively. When you've integrated your own narcissistic and empathic potentials, you're less likely to be triggered by others because you're not projecting your unconscious material onto them. This brings us to one of Jung's most profound insights, the collective unconscious. He believed that certain psychological patterns and archetypes are shared across all humanity. The narcissist and the empath aren't just individual personality types. They're archetypal energies that exist within the collective human psyche. In our current cultural moment, we're seeing an archetypal battle playing out between these forces. Social media has amplified narcissistic tendencies, creating platforms for constant self-promotion and validation-seeking. At the same time, there's a growing awareness of empathy, emotional intelligence, and the need for compassion. But as long as we see these as opposing forces, rather than complementary aspects of human nature, we'll remain stuck in conflict and projection. Jung would argue that our culture needs to mature beyond this either-or thinking. We need individuals who can hold both empathic sensitivity and healthy narcissistic self-regard. We need leaders who can care deeply about others while also having the confidence and vision to make difficult decisions. We need healers who have integrated their own wounds and can offer authentic compassion without martyrdom or superiority. The path of individuation that Jung described isn't easy or quick. It requires facing uncomfortable truths about yourself, owning aspects of your personality you'd rather deny, and doing the ongoing work of conscious integration. But the payoff is immense: psychological freedom, authentic relationships, and the ability to show up fully in the world without being controlled by unconscious patterns and projections. As we near the end of our exploration, I want to leave you with this profound truth that Jung discovered. Your greatest psychological challenges often contain the seeds of your greatest gifts. The person struggling with narcissistic patterns has the potential to develop remarkable leadership abilities and healthy self-confidence. The person overwhelmed by empathic sensitivity has the potential to become a powerful healer and catalyst for positive change. But these potentials can only be realized through conscious integration, through doing the brave work of facing your shadow, owning all aspects of yourself, and committing to ongoing psychological growth. This isn't a one-time fix or a simple technique. It's a lifelong journey of becoming more whole, more authentic, and more free. The hidden battle of your psyche doesn't have to remain hidden forever. You can bring consciousness to these unconscious patterns. You can integrate your rejected aspects. You can transform your wounds into wisdom and your struggles into strengths. Jung showed us that this is not only possible, it's the fundamental task of human psychological development. So the next time you encounter someone who triggers your judgment or irritation, remember Jung's wisdom. They might just be holding up a mirror to the parts of yourself that are asking to be seen, understood, and integrated. The battle between narcissism and empathy doesn't have to be a war. It can be a dance, a creative tension that leads to greater wholeness and authentic power. Your psyche is vast and complex, containing multitudes of potential. The question isn't whether you're a narcissist or an empath. The question is, Are you ready to embrace the full spectrum of your humanity and step into the integrated, individuated person you're meant to become?